Hi, Shashank. Yes, I'm sorry about the technical challenge that we're facing. I think we're good to go now. I am able to hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. That's perfect.
Sorry for the delay.
Yeah, it's kind of okay. Well, we have ample amount of attendees here. Okay, let me share
Yes,
my screen. Let me know once it's visible. Is it?
yes, it's visible. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Chanakya, for there. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Shashank. Today we're gonna talk about modern workplace and welcome to the webinar program. Today's agenda we're gonna discuss about why we adopted a modern 365 journey, what is there in modern workplace, highlights of Microsoft the one desktop, how it's appear in when we talk about modern workplace and M365, and security and compliance over M365, which we are dealing with right now. So understanding and introduction to our mobility security, where the whole suit will brings you more clarity over the feature and aspects of M365. Before going to ahead, we let's understand how modernization has started and people are starting using uh, the services which provided by the Microsoft, and how pandemic was the outbreak which due to which we started working from home, and suddenly the way we used to work has already changed, and the past where we dealing with collaboration with teams and communicating with other has nowadays had changed a lot, and it brings also impact our day-to-day activities where IT infrastructure has their own challenges, and people from the customer and people centric also has their own challenges to work as a flexibility. But while working from home, infrastructure and IT administrator are more concerned about their applications data, which could be leakage or could be a threaten for your organization. So yes, everything has changed, and adapt journey of adaptation of modern work where remotely things gonna be appearing, but it little quite uh, the things are not so the way we used to deal with. So security landscape has changed already, where it majorly divided into three different element: identity, application, and data and device. When I called it as an identity, guys, it's not until an user identity, it also the employee or a partner or a customer, or I can say a third party vendor who belongs to your organization, who can access the resources of your application, who can step into your organization to have hands on the devices of your organization. So the identity is about a it's personal thing. I mean, it is a resource ID where you could have your own terms on your organization. When we talk about devices, well, devices could be individually assigned to every single identity. Though a single user willing to work on different devices, it is in our administrator hand. You are willing to work, or I mean, it is permissible to access the application data. It could be on premises or it could be over third party applications, but we can restrict all managing the security. And when we talk about a remote work, the application data which accessible by Android or Mac OS, we can restrict there by applying the rules or the policies, where we setting some things all together. Or we could say a device application can have certain restriction to use the app, certain apps. It could be made over the cloud application or third party application which can be manageable through your devices. So in certain short things, the scenario here is, well, the security landscape is changing. We may restrict the a single identity over its device. It may be Android, iOS. The permutation combination we can apply there, and the security landscape and the major thing which might be harmful for your organization can be restricted there. Here we can consider a thing where a transition period is occurred, where identity has a flexibility to use for, to work somewhere inside your perimeter security or the landscape where the attack could be possibly generating. But the defense is quite challenging here. So it overcome these challenges, we Microsoft had introduced a whole suite where single aspect would be taken care. And when we talk about elements which are take major part of this mobility solution, where that is nothing but a identity, a behavior of a user, and the things which it controlling, I mean the mobile device management. And for data protection and segregation of it, we have a service called information protection, where Azure providing is the free service, and you could label each and every document of your on premises, or it could be on the cloud, simply manage things. And combining all this together, we have a third party suite, or I can say a tool, which Microsoft provide, which gives you complete insight of your environment, and single log, and everything could be monitored on single dashboard. What's right now going on in your environment, it would be traceable through a cloud app security. This brings you a complete whole a platter, I would say, where the measure of the Microsoft services are combined, and serve you as an best suite or suit. Moving further, let's understand how the challenges could be appear in front of IT administrator, and what the user are accepting from the organization. While working from home, they are have willing to have the access the applications from number of devices. It may be certain that in today's scenario, who was using two simultaneously, and where IT has a challenges to how would you secure a data. There might be a chances of any leakage. User might be download their corporate resource or corporate data to a number of devices. So how we could protect it is more concern about the organization. And the IT could be restrict then and there by opting this solution. The yes, the mobile productivity has a more and more challenges. How do we limit the resources? How do we empower the resources by using more productivity? These are the things which we need to consider while we talk about modernization. And M365 provides you this leverage to be agile on your solution. So let's understand by taking some scenarios how do we gonna opt this uh, the suit where user has a different requirement, where we can, well, we talk about when the user requirement, there might be different clients when thinking from different approach, where one of our client may needs to protect only application and device, may other client needs to have only work securely from home or anytime. So different Microsoft application, or I would say a services, can be fulfill this requirement. Let's take an example where client willing to have protect their data and the applications on their premises. So one simple EMS suite with Azure Active Directory, a major service where identity is more concerned, and Intune one other service where mobile management could be applicable. I mean, you can restrict the user from entering to your environment, and the cloud app security portal, which brings you some insights, and the the what got going on in your environment could be traceable on there. So Azure Information Protection Service, which helps you to labelize your data and segregate the things which the it may be a case sensitive, or it may be some important data, financial thing could not be loosened over it. So these things can be achievable through these certain services which right now appearing in front of you. And majorly combining with this all these thing, I'm Windows 10 and Windows Defender would help you to compile all single the different services with a best suit that Microsoft provide. But when we talk about a threat, I mean the external threat which might be it could be harmful for your organization. And then EMS, I mean another services which leads to you to protect from the external threats will help you to achieve your goal. That is advanced threat analytic. I mean, user may behave in unfashioned way where the it could be the he or she might be no wonder it could browse any of anonymous website though. So it unwelcome event can be occur over there. So external threat from uncertain domain, it could be possible that some threat could be stumble upon your environment. So that may be can be protect from the external threat. That is nothing but advanced threat protection which brings you more security on your environment. Additionally, by accessing or opting the pro solution and applications where this requirement could be fulfill with the threat and protect management. When we talk about a third scenario where you could protect your data with single Azure Active Directory service. But although there are certain aspects we need to consider where threat analytics and Azure information protection would be a major part of your suite, I would say. There you could restrict the users from from using one single service, and combining all you have you know uh, landscape security where office different apps and the threat things could be achieved all together. Finally, we can consider this very basic scenario where users needs to only work on remotely, and he needs to have applications access. So here the EMS suite which helps you to bring your fulfill your requirement, that is Intune, that is mobile device management, and Azure Active Directory which helps you to identify when users are logging in and logging out on your environment. And the certain basic applications will help you to fulfill your agenda. Skype and Exchange would be now has changed to Teams for collaborating with your team members. It would be helpful. So these four different scenario will has different services will accordingly the licenses, and the costing would be varies depending on all these scenario. User administrator needs to consider before proposing any solution to end user. These are the certain aspect we need to consider it. Okay, so let's move further. And by knowing this scenario, let's take an example how actual deployment would be happen, and how my email and productivity suite could be appear in front of me. When I say it has a mobility to use from any number of devices, so yes, the identity is more concerned where a third party or a vendor or the person who does not belongs to your organization, but though he or she has access to your resources, could be manageable through Azure Active Directory, where identity is more concerned, and it is derived from traditional thing where Kerberos and LDAP was initially where the part of it. But now Azure Active Directory as a cloud service will help to identify what brings you in your plate and how it could be managed. When we talk about a device, it could be Android, it could be a Windows device, Mac device, or your desktop or laptop. But yes, through a mobile managed environment, you can certainly implement this solution. And the applications layer security, which again a mobile device management would be provided, where you it might be a attach Excel sheet or attach data, could be has has information, it could be harmful for your organization. It might have anonymous URLs that could be wandering somewhere. Also, I can say a data which has a jargon where it might be could be case sensitive. So it could be possibly that to be a better productivity, these are the basic services which needs to be considered while to perfect any AMS suit. Well, let's talk about conditional access, where it's again a part of your mobile device management. It's a service where users, could restrict from entering your data. We can, you know, uh, we can set up policies where when users onboard on premises or user try to log in their uh, corporate resources, it should be compliance with the policies which predefined by IT administrator. Microsoft Intune itself will allow users to access their data based on the policy or the device is compliant or not. Then only it would allow you to access your cloud applications. Also, there are certain conditions which to understand how conditional access would be deployed, we could say it could be simply if and else statement where employee may be a part of your organization, but though he might not be, it it could be from different department. So we can restrict there. For an example, I would say employee from a IT administrator can only allow to access certain number of data, might be bind over there. And we can also define a trusted and compliance divide that could be have a limited access to or limited resources. What I mean to say over here is we can compline the device basis on Android system, I would say operating system. Based on our corporate defined operating system, we can limit and access the corporate resources. Also, by using conditional access, uh, you know we can whitelist the user. We can define from where user can access their locations. I mean, you also can set up a password force resort. I mean, if user try to access from another location or another ISP, you can immediately set an policy over there where you password reset could be applicable, and user unfashioned behavior of user could be traced, and you can restrict there only. Well, let's understand one more scenario where this mobile application management could be achievable through conditional access and or mobile Intune applications, where user may be concerned about their personal data. It might be a chances that user may can access your corporate resources to in their personal data, but IT administrator can set up a policy where personal and corporate applications could be segregated together. Let's take one example where user tried to copy a data from a corporate file from to his personal file. Though copied can be allowed, but although we have a restriction to use this data, we user could not paste over his personal devices. But user also may try to paste it over their personal storage. It might be a Google, or it would be a SkyDrive of the personal user. But yes, copying also not allowed. Similarly, if user try to edit any of the component from his current Excel sheet or current data, and he try to merge it to the corporate OneDrive or could say cloud storage, yes, it is achievable, though we have set it the policy accordingly. Now, one more thing which come up with the security feature, that's encryption. Azure Rights Management, one of the major feature where it encrypts the data in terms of there is one agent called BitLocker. It helps you to encrypt the data, and you protect any file from while you transfer from one email to another, I would say. That how you can track and manage the cloud from anywhere, and an IT administrator has a good visibility over encryption things, and it could be deploy in in scale up can be in way wonder. I mean, it's very scalable likely. Well, let's understand one more thing. That's how Windows Defender ATP works while this EMS suite is working, where these are the major aspect where attack surface reduction and endpoint detection could be your possibly a chance where the anonymous USB or the runtime things that the exe might lose, or the can cache your data, and it would lose some threat on your on premises. Also, it provides a next generation protection for where the behavior analytics will analyze how the data was, the threats are being hitting on our environment, and it will restrict from repeating it again. So that's how Windows ATP will help you to protect from the uh, the threat from external threats, I would say. Let's understand one more pipeline where email flow has to go to 7 different layer, where in initial thing where newsletters and campaigning would be restrict earlier. I mean, if the URL is containing more over number of decimals, and the lengthy URL which I would say uncertain domain. So that would reject earlier stage where heuristic cluster will help you to restrict the social media, or I would say campaigning email which is come from banking, or it may be from product enhancement that could be restrict over there. And one more thing, it has to be passed. I mean, when email from one exchange through another domain, it would restrict over there by applying a global model where user has its own preference, where spam mail could be detect over there, and simply could have a restriction there only. Well, although it passes through three pipelines, it also has one stage where phishing and other malware could be detect there, and restrict over there also. So ATP majorly works on these stage where safe link could be by attaching any of document. There might be a chances where the link could be anonymous, or it could leads you to redirect to any of your banking domain, or asking for any credential. So that kind of phishing attack would restrict here. Well, if the hacker, or I would say threat, could be passed through the all these pipeline, or I would say all the chambers. A zap, zero hours purge, is an agent which is continuously monitoring your email inboxes, where it could have continuous monitoring. What something wrong if happen, it would give you pre-alert, and it would won't allow to enter or hit your email inboxes. Well, we discuss about Windows ATP Defender, where the things can be pre-alert altogether, investigate there what's been wrong and how user is behaving unfashioned way. Reporting and configuration on the side we can do it. Bilateral movement could be detected. Uh, there also a chance where a same kind of attacks would be repeating again by the uncertain domain. It could be rustic over there. There are major aspects we can discuss here about the ATP. Let's take an example where how Microsoft security model is defined. I mean, there are three major verticals where Windows Defender ATP, Azure ATP, and Office 65 ATP works together on this security model, where Office 65 ATP works at an application layer where uh, there might be a chances of exploitation, where attachment could be have a website or a browsing content on any exe program which might harm to your environment. So it detects on the primary stage if the email flow is working on. But when we talk about Windows Defender ATP, it has its own feature where from perimeter security, or I would say from internal network attack, it also defend. and the exploitation may happen if Windows Office ATP may have a chance to enlift, or I would say incorporate in your environment. So Windows Defender ATP would stop from being processed that third party applications. And when we talk about Azure ATP, it helps you to restrict attack from uncertain domain. Here bilateral movement we also can consider, where it is highly scalable to an infrastructure level. Well, when user try to shift from one department to another, or the identity is being traced, it could be restrict over there. There might be a chances of reconnaissance where brutal force attack can be happen. Certain number of the chances of getting repeating your accessing your account could leads you to to disallow to entering your users from your organization. So this is how basic features, I mean basic services which Microsoft helps you to give you a better quality of and security over here. Well, let's understand how Azure ATP works when we talk about a whole infrastructure scenario. Well, on premises and the cloud applications are currently being used with users, and Azure ATP is running background. It will collect the information. It will also analyze and learn how the user is behaving, or I would say a learning pattern, where it has unlimited scale of version, where it tries to analyze how user is accessing their data, and it might be a chances could be illusion or leakage somewhere. So it also detect abnormal behavior of an activities, where user might be chance to hit some download which not suitable for your organization. So it will also restrict their post detection. It will investigate and give you per alert on that instant, and quickly analyze what's being wrong in your environment, and will simply give you the insights of your environment, what's being wrong from so past days. Well, moving further, we would say then there is one more service which brings you to help your data to more protection, I would say, in terms of document, that is Azure Information Protection. Where we talk about Azure Information Protection, it also helps you on the data which lies on premises, which secured by perimeter security or a pyramid protection, I would say. It also to help you to identify a device from where our data is accessing currently. Also the hybrid kind of environment where we are new normal in hardened to protect, and unregulated and uncertain data which may be lying on your file server or maybe your storage. It could be uh, you know labeled, or I would say a segregate over there, and have a protection, okay, sensitive data. Well, these are the three major verticals, although it is numbered in 1 2 3 way. But Azure Information Protection is going to be continuously monitoring what data is being dumped over your cloud storage, I would say, or file server, where that continuous sharing and maintenance is happening. It also provides a encryption level where while transferring a data, Azure Information Rights Management is another service which come up with AIP, which helps you to encrypt a data, and it also classify basis on their sensitivity. It may be automatic or a manual classification. Well, let's take an example. How would we classify and label the data? I mean, the personal data could be, it may be a case sensitive for the your organization personnel, and we can classify it all together by applying a simply label. Let me take you to the web portal where these lab can be classified, or the label policy can be set over there. Okay, so the services which is offered by Azure Information Protection could be accessible through Azure portal, and I have applied a unified labeling things over here to restrict the here. Okay, so I have entered into a test tenant and 365 test tenant. I have a E5 subscription over here, which is most costly suite, which provides you all the services of Microsoft. Azure Information Protection is a service which helps you to label your cloud or data which is dumped on your premises or on the cloud. Let it appear. Yeah, okay, it's in front of us, guys. So thing is that I have customized these labels and kept it as in our cloud service, where this confidential data as labeled I have created. When I this label well created, it has also description and the coloring thing which I maybe change over there. Basis of coloring I may identify how labeling could be done. I mean, it helps you to segregate and identify your data easily. Okay, so next thing I would say, where it might be the header footer size we can define it, the things which might be helpful for to help to protect your data. It might be you can apply a watermark over there. So many things which the Azure AIP will provide you. To understand this better way, I have applied this uh, unified labeling thing into Microsoft domain by applying a unified label thing. When we activate this service, it brings this service into Office 365 and security compliance. Let's take another example while logging into Office 365 domain. Well, here I have already logged in from protection.office.com, where security and compliance maintain over here. Well, I was talking about the classification where the labels could be achieved. So let's take an example where these sensitive labels would be appear in front of you, and you can the labels policy, or you can publish it over here. As soon as publish, I mean the post public publish your policies or post publishing the labels, it will start filtering out your data which is dumped on your premises, on your file server, and classified it accordingly. So let's take an example. Let me create one more label over here. I would say a sensitive label. Display name would be, I can say, important data. Description for using, I can right now I would set for test. Description for admin. Again, I would can set for the test. So it will ask for the scope of label. I mean, what files or email encryption you need to deploy, and is it you wanted to be auto label or something else. So I would keep as in default, where it provides you a more inside of your premises. Auto label things can be set up all together, and it will start now creating a label, and within we can publish it. It would start. Yeah, there it is. We had created a label, and let me publish this label by applying and selecting a particular group of user, I would say, or I can say a particular users, where this label replaces the data or uh, the document we need to label it. So the restricted or created by certain user or certain group can be uh, set there. So my label was here. Yeah, sensitive data. Yes, important data one was my label description. Yeah, so I have selected one group. Yeah, let's take an example where these guys are have their document dump on their file share, and I'm going to be label their document by applying the important data policy, whatever labeled colored, and whatever we have defined in Azure information protection, that would be appear on their labels. The policy I would name as a test description sensitive data. Saying validify, the name is already exist. Okay, I would say test 2. Yeah, okay. Yeah, post creating the label and the policy, we are not, as soon as public, it will start appearing on the users, or I would say the documents and the data which labels has been publishing right now. So it would take a term while these policies and label things are happening. So let me continue with the slides. Post labeling things, we could talk about the data protection policy, where data loss prevention could be occur. So as we deployed a label, we can discover the data, we can segregate it, classify based on their sensitivity by applying label. Also, we can apply a DLP policies over here on individual file share, or I would say document, where we not just take an example where in certain, I mean in general, where files and data would be land up, as their SharePoint and OneDrive is a common channel over protection policies could be deployed. And Exchange email, of course, it all default, I mean the when email flows goes up, we should certainly be sure that we could not lose our data. So altogether, data loss policy would be beneficial to we could not lose a sensitive data before passing on to someone else. It would give you pop up and pre-alert that data might the labeled data might not be accessible for another user, or it will restrict over there. Okay, so let's understand one more thing where will it help you to bring more clarity over your on-premises things, which currently is transformed. While we talk about the classic and enterprise thing, where users and used to have access to their web applications, and it brings you more helpful when we talk about the IoT devices, where users, while accessing their corporate resources, while having number of devices connected on the same on premises. This is how IT has transferred from enterprise version. Well, cloud technology is also introduced here, and one the best classical mobile experience, where perimeter security can be controlled through EMS suite here. When measure another aspect we could consider here, one single identity is controlling all the plane. I mean, one Azure Active Directory service, which is derived from native Active Directory Windows Server and Kerberos and LDAP. Here it help you to by providing and taking a part of different services. I mean, where we could not use Azure Active Directory, so as in it used for multi-factor authentication, where conditional action in tune device policy, I mean, based on every user and every single identity. So to connect from your on-premises data to your cloud, you need Azure Active Directory to synchronize all of it. I mean, to to sync with your on-prem data to your cloud. This is a major service which brings you help. Also, it allows you to bring your own device, DoD device to on your environment, where compliance and trusted device could be land up in your environment. It is also with help of one single service called Azure Active Directory. So as in, you can, based on single identity, you can control whole plane over here. Although it also helps you to access a third party application, not only through Microsoft based application, but another cloud applications can be merged together by using Azure Active Directory. So guys, we can say it's a perfect blend of mixture, where Microsoft has 365 bring you more service in terms of modern workplace, or I would say a suite which allows you or leverage you to work in in the way the flexibility what users want. Azure's which brings you more offering the applications which available in a SaaS based application, I would say, which is more or 90 plus compliance things appear over there. Millions and trillions are already invested in a security aspect for the Azure. And one more now gonna talk about WVD, that is Windows Virtual Desktops. Yeah, that that brings you a perfect picture where combining all these three services will helps you to understand or helps you to give more leverage to your work, and it is it is beneficial to work for the I would say the adapt the modern work journey. Well, now let's talk about Windows Virtual Desktop, where by opting a EMS suite, or I would say land up with a modern workplace, you are already eligible with a Windows Virtual Desktop. I mean, a, a solution which brings you a complete scalability, where we traditionally used to have a single desktop where we can remotely access one single user over there, but there are certain services which comes from a server operating system to this client operating system, where you can have a multi-session on the single desktops. I would say RDSCL license is applicable to a client license over here, where customer are now eligible to access this virtual desktop by having these listed licenses. If they offer this license, they are now eligible to use the Windows Virtual Desktop. And yes, it is landed somewhere in any part of your world where your desktop could simply scale up and scale down in minutes as computer required. I mean, one single user could have access to their desktop. Parallelly, a good amount of user can connect to the Windows Virtual Desktop for accessing not only the desktop, I would say a compute, but also it would provides you for multi-session based on the application layer also, where a single application can be used to the users by in when we talk about a multi-session. Well, these are the traditional services which Windows servers used to provide an enterprise, where single session would only allowed, but bring combining all together, it comes with a session where you would connect a good amount of user, and it is highly scalable also, where multi session is able to here, and with help of other Microsoft services with server things and Windows thing could be lined up all together, and you could use the virtualization the way you want. Well, again, the security is an aspect another where we can detect a new cases over here. When we talk about Windows Virtual Desktop, when people are amazed, I mean, how it would appear in front of us, I mean, how the resolution would be. So, uh, as it provides you, the more compatibility for, any of your devices, it could run your laptop. So, I have taken an example where Mac OS having this Windows Virtual Desktop, and the resolution over it is a new dynamic. It will certainly appear as your desktop or screen size would be. I mean, it's an agent, I would say, a remote application where you need to access Windows Virtual Desktop over here. The recent files and the application you are working on, same application files could be accessible to your colleagues or the parallel person who's accessing these applications, and you can have no need to go for uh, the desktop version, I would say, or desktop things. I mean, no need to land for the logging for your desktop, that the application may be light up there. But by using this remote desktop application, you could simply access your applications over here. Well, may user concern about is Microsoft Teams? How could we, have access if we are using Windows Virtual Desktop? Then yes, it is support, since it is, have a good connectivity over the data center. It is hosted over the VMs, and it provides you the same scalability which provides you in your current desktop or laptop. Well, is it multimedia uh, consider? I mean, is it have, the features which allows you when you use the things on in when accessing your Windows Virtual Teams, I would say. So yes, it is accessible, and it provides you multimedia playback also, where you could, there is no lagging, I could say. I mean, it analyze the feature and accept the things where, what compute or what CPU uses are currently being used, and would adapt the change instantly over there. And it will give you more enhancement of when we started using this media playback concern. Well, again, Microsoft has a global reachability where 54 Azure region is connected all over the globe, 200 plus express route partners all over the globe, and ISPs providing a huge connectivity. 130 miles of fiber cables had deployed over the seas, and the search reachability wouldn't be possible to another service provider, where your desktop or your applications has, land up with selected region, you are there nearby. I mean, it's covering all over the globe. So that brings you to whole, the scenario where uh, we have cover of, and toggle back some Windows portal, I mean administrator portal, where you could have access to your data, or how we could demonstrate the things particular in front of you. So let me come up with the question and answer. I'm ready to, answer them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've entered it. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shashank. Thank you so much. With this, we conclude. Thank you all.